He salvaged an alien wreck. What he found was alive and unpredictable. He wasn't rich or famous, just a salvage pilot with a small but reliable ship, the starward bound, and a stubborn curiosity that sometimes got him into trouble. On this trip, he was hunting for something extraordinary. Rumors spoke of derelict alien ships abandoned after a long-forgotten war. Some said the technology inside could make a person rich beyond belief. Others whispered darker tales, ships that were dangerous, alive in ways humans could not understand. But Ethan had never been the type to back away from a challenge. The moon hung silently ahead, gray and cratered like a frozen wound on the surface of the planet below. That's when he saw it. At first he thought it was a rock formation, but the jagged edges shimmered under the faint starlight. The outline was not natural. The shape was sleek but organic, almost like a creature frozen in stone. He slowed his ship and activated his scanners. The readings were unusual. The energy signatures weren't like anything Ethan had cataloged before. There was movement, subtle, almost imperceptible, but something inside the wreck was alive. His heart raced. This was no ordinary salvage. "Looks like I found you," he whispered, adjusting his helmet. Landing was tricky. The surface of the moon was rough and the wreck was partially buried in a crater. Dust rose in small clouds as the starward bound touched down. Ethan took a deep breath. He grabbed his tools, laser cutter, scanner, power gloves, and opened the hatch. The airlock hissed as he stepped onto the surface. The ship was massive. Its exterior was smooth and metallic in parts, but other sections were almost flesh-like, pulsating faintly as if breathing. He ran a scanner over the hull. The readings were inconsistent. Parts of the ship were dead, while others radiated an energy that seemed alive. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He had heard stories of alien life forms trapped inside their own technology, but he had never seen proof. With careful steps, he approached the main entry. There was no door as humans understood it, only a flexible membrane that parted easily when he pressed against it. Inside, the ship was darker than he expected. Strange lights pulsed along the walls in patterns he couldn't decipher. The floor shifted subtly under his feet, as though the ship itself was aware of his presence. Ethan activated his scanner again. He moved slowly, taking in the alien environment. Symbols lined the walls, glowing softly in colors that had no names. Shapes shifted in ways that defied geometry. He realized the ship was alive in some sense, a living construct designed with purpose beyond human understanding. In the center of the main chamber, partially buried in debris, was a container. It was small, smooth, and glowing faintly. The energy readings were off the charts. Ethan knelt beside it, curious. The container's surface seemed to ripple as if reacting to his touch. He scanned it again, trying to understand what was inside. "Come on, what are you hiding?" he muttered. The scanner beeped frantically. The energy inside was pulsing, moving as though it was a heartbeat. Ethan hesitated. Every instinct told him to leave it alone, but curiosity burned hotter than caution. Slowly, he activated the latch. The container opened with a soft hiss, releasing a small, alien creature that shimmered like liquid metal. It was beautiful and terrifying. Its body was fluid, changing colors constantly, and its eyes, or what Ethan assumed were eyes, reflected intelligence, almost mirroring his own expression. It hovered in the air, moving unpredictably, testing its surroundings. Ethan froze. He had never seen anything like it. "Easy, easy," he whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." The creature seemed to respond. It twitched and shimmered, extending a small appendage toward his scanner. When he touched it, the scanner sparked and shut down. The creature giggled, a sound that was somehow both musical and mechanical. Ethan stepped back. "Okay, okay, you're alive. You're really alive." He realized quickly that this was more than salvage. He had stumbled upon a living alien entity that had survived whatever had destroyed its ship, and it was unpredictable. As he studied it, the The ship itself reacted. Walls shifted and the floor rippled. Lights blinked in response to the creature's movements. The alien wasn't just alive, it seemed to control the environment around it. Ethan understood with a mix of awe and fear that he was not the first to find this ship. Perhaps no one had ever truly left it undisturbed. A sudden tremor shook the ship. Dust fell from the ceiling as the walls warped closer. Ethan stumbled, barely maintaining his balance. The creature pulsed brightly and darted toward a control panel that had emerged from the floor. A soft, high-pitched sound resonated through the chamber. The ship seemed to respond to its presence, as if obeying some command only it understood. Ethan realized that he had no control here. The alien was not just a passenger, it was the master. His hands shook as he slowly backed away, but the creature followed him, curious, playful, and dangerous. He tried to grab it, but it slipped through his fingers, changing shape, elongating and retracting like liquid silver. Each movement caused the ship to quiver, as if the alien was testing him. "Okay," Ethan said aloud, trying to steady his voice. "I don't know what you are or what you want, but I'm not here to hurt you." The alien hovered near him, shifting into a shape that resembled a hand. Ethan hesitated, then cautiously placed his own hand near it. The alien touched his palm, and a spark of energy passed through him, not painful but startling. Images flashed in his mind. Star systems he had never seen, strange ships, and a sense of loneliness so deep it made him shiver. The message was clear. This creature had been alone for a very long time, and it was curious about him. Suddenly, an alarm blared from Ethan's own ship outside. He cursed under his breath. He hadn't thought to lock down the starward bound. Some minor systems had detected radiation fluctuations from the wreck, and the sensors were now screaming warnings. The alien reacted violently. Walls rippled, and the lights flared as it darted toward a section of the hull. Ethan barely held on to his tools as the floor shifted beneath him. Panels rose from the ground, and he realized the ship was reacting defensively, not just to him, but to its own perception of danger. The room shook violently, and a section of the ceiling collapsed. Dust and debris filled the air. Ethan coughed, struggling to keep his balance. The alien darted in front of him, creating a shimmering barrier that seemed to push the debris away. It wasn't safe, nothing here was, but he realized something incredible. The creature could manipulate the ship's systems directly. Ethan didn't have time to admire it. The structural instability meant he needed to leave. With careful movements, he scooped the alien into a containment unit he had prepared for fragile salvage materials. The alien didn't resist. It simply pulsed and glowed, almost as if amused by his panic. Ethan raced back to the airlock, dodging falling debris. He activated the hatch and hauled the alien aboard. Once inside the starward bound, he sealed the airlock. The alien floated freely in zero gravity, shifting shapes and changing colors in patterns he could not predict. Breathing heavily, Ethan sank into his pilot's seat. He looked at the creature and then at the wreck behind them. "You're alive, aren't you?" he asked quietly. The alien pulsed brightly, almost like a nod. Ethan couldn't help but laugh nervously. He had found more than treasure. He had found life, intelligence, and something completely beyond human understanding. As he initiated the jump to hyperspace, he realized a truth that filled him with both excitement and dread. This creature was unpredictable, powerful, and aware. It wasn't just a salvage job anymore. It was a partnership, or perhaps a test. And somewhere deep in his mind, Ethan knew this was just the beginning. Because in the darkness of space, some discoveries were not meant to be contained. They were meant to challenge everything humanity thought it knew about life, intelligence, and the universe itself. The stars stretched before him as the starward bound leapt into hyperspace. Ethan couldn't help but wonder, had he found a friend, or had he awakened something that could change the fate of humanity? He didn't have an answer yet, but he knew one thing for sure: his life had changed forever. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt truly alive. Ethan Corbin had barely closed the airlock when the alien, whom he now called Flux, floated freely inside the cargo bay, shimmering in shifting shades of silver, blue, and green. Every color seemed to express a mood he could not yet understand. Ethan watched it warily. Flux had been unpredictable before, but now it was aboard his ship. That made everything more complicated. He set the containment unit down and activated the ship's scanners. Flux reacted immediately, stretching and flowing toward the console, brushing against the holographic display. The readings changed, flickering in patterns Ethan had never seen before. Lights on the console danced as if alive, responding to Flux's presence. "Okay," Ethan said slowly. "You're curious, I get that, but we need rules. I can't have you breaking the ship before I even figure out what you are." Flux pulsed softly, almost like a laugh. Ethan shivered. The creature was not just intelligent, it seemed to understand him. Over the next few hours, he tried to study Flux. Small experiments, simple observations, how it reacted to light, sound, and movement. Flux seemed to learn quickly, responding to Ethan's gestures and voice. It mimicked some of his movements, stretching and folding into shapes he recognized. At one point, it even created a small holographic map of the ship by projecting its energy onto the console. Ethan's jaw dropped. "This is incredible," he muttered. "You're not just alive. You're smart." Ethan realized something else. Flux was adaptive. When he tried to confine it to the containment unit, Flux altered its form to fit through the smallest gaps, slipping free every time. It seemed to test boundaries, playful but clearly understanding cause and effect. For Ethan, this was both thrilling and terrifying. If a single small alien could manipulate his ship like this, what would it do in a more critical situation? Before he could dwell on it, a warning tone blared from the ship's communications. A corporate salvage fleet had detected unusual energy spikes from the moon. Ethan cursed. He had expected the story of a living alien might get attention eventually, but not this quickly. A holographic display flickered to life. On it, two ships glided in formation, sleek and armed. Corporate hunters, no doubt, ready to take whatever he had found. Ethan's mind raced. He had no weapons on the ship besides the standard defenses and his wits, but he had Flux. If he could understand it, perhaps it could help him defend the ship. "Flux," he said cautiously, "they're coming for us. Can you help?" Flux pulsed, stretching toward the controls. Lights on the console blinked as if trying to communicate. Ethan realized Flux understood. It wasn't a mindless creature. It could interface with technology, read systems, and act independently. When the corporate ships entered the moon's orbit, Ethan initiated evasive maneuvers. The starward bound shuddered as Flux shifted sections of the ship, bending corridors slightly, altering gravity points. Ethan laughed with nervous excitement. "Okay, I don't know how you do it," he said, gripping the controls, "but we're working together." The first corporate ship fired a warning laser. Flux reacted immediately, extending a tendril of its energy through the hull, creating a shimmering barrier that deflected the beam. Ethan's jaw dropped. The alien had not only learned to interact with human tech, it could manipulate it in ways he couldn't anticipate. The corporate ships closed in, firing multiple lasers. Ethan ducked and twisted the ship, dodging most of the blasts, while Flux adapted the ship's structure in real time. Panels shifted, corridors bent, and surfaces changed to absorb or deflect incoming energy. "Impressive," Ethan muttered. "You really are unpredictable." As the battle continued, Ethan realized that his human ingenuity was the perfect complement to Flux's alien adaptability. He could think ahead strategically, predicting enemy movements and traps. Flux could react instantly, reshaping the ship's interior and systems in ways no human could. Together, they were a force unlike anything the corporate hunters had faced. But the more they fought, the more Ethan noticed a troubling pattern. Flux was learning from the combat, not just defending. Its movements were no longer purely reactive. They were anticipatory, almost aggressive. Ethan understood that Flux wasn't malicious, but it was growing beyond his control. The first ship managed to hit a weak point in the hull. Ethan cursed as a panel collapsed, exposing a section of the ship to space. Flux reacted immediately, flowing through the breach and sealing it from the inside, its body stretching and hardening like living metal. Ethan could only watch in awe. He had thought he was saving Flux. Now it was saving him. After hours of cat-and-mouse maneuvers, the corporate ships retreated, realizing they were outmatched. Ethan let out a long breath, leaning back in his chair. He had survived, but he knew this was just the beginning. He looked at Flux. The creature hovered calmly, colors pulsing rhythmically. Ethan could swear it was smiling in its own alien way. "You're something else," he said. "I don't even know if I can control you, but I guess we're partners now." Over the next few days, Ethan focused on learning about Flux. He discovered that it could manipulate energy, repair mechanical systems, and interface with computers. It seemed to understand his speech, though not fully. They developed simple signals, hand gestures, lights, and tones that allowed some basic communication. Flux also displayed what Ethan could only describe as emotion. When he was frustrated, Flux shimmered in soothing colors. When he was excited, it pulsed with bright flashes. The bond between human and alien grew stronger, built on curiosity, respect, and trust. Yet danger lingered. Corporate fleets were bound to return. And the galaxy was full of people who would see Flux as a tool, a weapon, or a prize. Ethan had to be careful. One night, as he was repairing minor damage to the ship, Flux hovered near him, pulsing softly. Ethan reached out, touching its fluid form. A warm, tingling sensation ran through him. Images flashed in his mind, ancient star systems, ships, alien landscapes. Ethan realized Flux had a memory network, perhaps containing knowledge of its own species. "You're not just alive," Ethan whispered. "You're history. You're a survivor." Flux responded with a bright pulse, almost a nod. Ethan felt a thrill of excitement mixed with responsibility. If word got out about Flux, humanity could gain knowledge far beyond its current understanding, or face disaster if it fell into the wrong hands. The next day they encountered a minor obstacle, a small asteroid field blocking their path. Ethan hesitated, but Flux reacted instinctively. Its form stretched into a streamlined shape, weaving around the rocks, scanning the path ahead. Ethan followed its lead, marveling at the creature's ability to calculate, adapt, and guide. "It's like flying with a co-pilot who can see the future," Ethan muttered, laughing. But the adventure took a sudden turn. A faint signal appeared on the scanner, a distress call, human in origin. Another salvage ship, small and unarmed, was trapped near a gas giant. Ethan debated. It was risky, but he couldn't ignore it. Humans were unpredictable in a different way, sometimes reckless, sometimes brave. "We're helping them," he decided. "And Flux, you're part of this too." When they arrived, they saw the ship being pulled toward the planet's atmosphere by gravity distortions. Ethan maneuvered carefully, while Flux projected energy to stabilize the ship. Together, they saved the crew, proving once again that human ingenuity combined with alien intelligence could overcome impossible odds. The rescued crew was shocked to see Flux, but Ethan explained cautiously. "It's alive, and it's not ours. We're working together." Some crew members were skeptical, others amazed. But one thing was clear: Ethan had something incredible, and it had already changed him. As night fell aboard the Starward Bound, Ethan sat with Flux hovering nearby. He thought about what had happened: the battle with the corporate ships, the asteroid field, the rescue. Every challenge had shown him one thing: humans were adaptable, clever, and courageous. But alone, they were limited. Together with Flux, they had a chance to achieve something extraordinary. Yet he couldn't shake one nagging worry: Flux was learning fast, faster than he could predict. It wasn't dangerous, yet. But unpredictability, as he had learned, could become dangerous in the wrong circumstances. For now, though, he let himself feel hope. Hope that humanity could rise to challenges like this. Hope that curiosity, courage, and respect for life, intelligence, and each other would be enough to survive in a galaxy full of unknowns. And deep down, Ethan knew this was just the beginning. Corporate fleets would return. Other humans would seek flux. The universe would challenge them in ways he could not imagine. But he was ready. Humans had always survived by thinking, adapting, and never giving up. And with Flux by his side, he was about to prove just how remarkable humans could be. As he drifted into sleep, he felt the alien pulse beside him, a comforting rhythm that mirrored his own heartbeat. Tomorrow, they would face the galaxy together. Unpredictable, unstoppable, and alive, Ethan Corbin woke to the soft pulse of Flux hovering nearby. The alien's shifting colors reflected the early light from a distant star. For a moment, Ethan just stared at it, marveling at its fluid shapes and subtle glow. In a galaxy full of dangers, humans rarely found allies like Flux, creatures that were intelligent, adaptable, and most importantly, willing to work with them. But the calm was temporary. His scanners detected movement in the nearby system, a fleet of corporate hunters returning, far larger than before. They weren't interested in negotiation. They wanted Flux, and they were willing to destroy anything that stood in their way. Ethan tightened his grip on the console. Looks like they've learned from last time, and they brought friends. Flux pulsed brightly, flowing into a streamlined shape near the navigation console. Its intelligence had grown quickly, and Ethan realized they didn't need to face the fleet blindly. Together, they could fight, but they had to outthink the hunters, not just outgun them. He activated the Starward Bound's main engines. All right, Flux, here's the plan. We need to make them chase us into the asteroid field ahead. I'll handle piloting and traps. You do your thing. Flux seemed to understand perfectly, moving alongside the ship's controls, bending energy fields around the hull. As they approached the asteroid field, Ethan could feel Flux subtly altering gravity points and energy flows. It wasn't just helping him, it was anticipating his moves. The hunters fired as they entered the field, but Ethan weaved through the rocks with unmatched precision. Flux extended tendrils of shimmering energy, redirecting debris to block incoming lasers. One of the corporate ships struck an asteroid, sending it spinning uncontrollably into another vessel. Ethan didn't celebrate. He didn't have time, but he couldn't help feeling awe. Together they were unstoppable. Suddenly, one of the larger corporate ships launched a cluster of advanced missiles. Ethan knew his standard defenses couldn't stop them all. "Flux now," he shouted. Flux flowed into the center of the ship, its body connecting with the main systems. Panels shifted, energy conduits pulsed, and the missiles slowed in mid-space, almost as if they were frozen by Flux's will. Then, with a burst of light, the missiles were redirected, detonating safely against an empty asteroid. Ethan laughed, his heart pounding. "You're incredible," he shouted, grinning. "I didn't think we could do it, but we did." But the battle was not over. The lead corporate ship, heavily armed and heavily armored, closed in on them. Ethan knew he needed a new strategy. He considered ramming it, but that would risk Flux and his ship. Instead, he relied on what humans had always done best: thinking, adapting, and taking bold risks. He activated the ship's camouflage system, an experimental technology that bent light around the vessel. Flux enhanced it, spreading its energy over the hull. Suddenly, the Starward Bound seemed to vanish from sight. The hunters fired blindly, their shots striking empty space. Ethan used the opportunity to maneuver behind the lead ship. With Flux's help, he accessed the alien wreck's energy readings, identifying weaknesses in the corporate ship's shields. He aligned the Starward Bound's energy cannons with a precise shot. Flux amplified the power, channeling it through the hull. A single, perfectly aimed blast tore through the ship's defenses, disabling its engines. The remaining hunters, seeing their leader defeated, retreated. Ethan exhaled, leaning back in his chair. He had survived, and once again, human ingenuity had triumphed, enhanced by an alien ally. After the battle, Ethan spent hours working with Flux to repair the damage to the Starward Bound. Every panel, every system, every conduit reflected the combined effort of human ingenuity and alien adaptability. By the time repairs were complete, the ship was more efficient than ever before. Flux pulsed proudly, stretching and shimmering across the interior, as if satisfied with their teamwork. Ethan couldn't help but marvel at what they had accomplished. "You know," he said, "humans aren't usually this lucky, but maybe we're ready for more than luck. Maybe we're ready for partners like you." Over the following days, Ethan and Flux traveled deeper into unexplored space. Flux seemed curious about everything: the stars, distant planets, human technology, and most surprisingly, Ethan himself. It mimicked his expressions at times, pulsing in gentle colors when he smiled, stretching toward him when he was tense. The bond between them grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and shared adventure. One evening, as they approached a nebula filled with strange ion storms, Flux pulsed brightly and projected a holographic display in front of Ethan. It showed the wrecked alien ship they had salvaged. The hologram revealed a message in complex patterns, almost like a star chart. Ethan studied it carefully, realizing it contained information about Flux's species, lost explorers who had traversed galaxies long before humans had left their own solar system. This is incredible," he whispered. "You're not just alive, your history, your knowledge." Flux pulsed, flowing in a shape that resembled a human hand reaching out. Ethan took it gently. The energy tingled through him, showing images of alien civilizations, distant stars, and forgotten technologies. Humanity had barely scratched the surface of the universe, and here was a creature willing to share its understanding. Ethan realized the enormity of what he had discovered. Flux wasn't just a companion, it was a bridge to the stars, a teacher, a guide. And humanity had a choice: exploit it for profit or learn, adapt, and rise to meet the challenges of the galaxy with respect and courage. He made his decision. "We're not giving you to anyone," he said firmly. "You're not a weapon, you're not property, you're you. And we'll protect you." Flux pulsed in response, almost as if it understood completely. For the first time, Ethan felt a profound sense of partnership, not just with the alien but with humanity itself. Humans had survived countless dangers because they had curiosity, courage, and the will to think beyond limits. Now, with Flux, they could reach new heights. As they approached a distant star system, Ethan prepared for their next adventure. There were mysteries to uncover, civilizations to observe, and dangers to face. But he felt confident. Humans were adaptable, ingenious, and courageous, and with Flux they were unstoppable. One day, humanity might meet other alien species. Some would be friendly, some hostile. But the bond between a human and an alien, built on respect, understanding, and shared experience, was something that could inspire others. Ethan watched Flux shimmer across the cabin, reflecting starlight like liquid metal. He smiled. "We did it," he said. "And we're just getting started." The universe stretched before them, vast, mysterious, and full of challenges. But Ethan knew this: humans had the ability to rise above the unknown, face danger with courage, and learn from every encounter. And with Flux by his side, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The final thought that crossed his mind as he set a course deeper into uncharted space was simple, yet profound. They were alive, unpredictable, and remarkable, just like humanity itself.